Hello, welcome. So my name is Tim Burnett. This is a slightly extended version of the presentation I'm going to give at Tech Tuesday. Maybe you've seen it, maybe you're there, maybe you're not quite, couldn't quite make it, couldn't attend. But I'm going to take you through this idea of going from anxiety to adoption. So a practical way of you thinking about how you might adopt AI. I'm going to go you through some different examples, some different products and services out there. I'm going to elaborate a little bit, so I've got more time here now to speak to you. So I may waffle a little bit, but there might just be a bit more juicy information for you. So let's just have a quick look. The one thing I want to take away from all this today is this idea of being human first, AI forward, agent ready. That's the kind of the one thing I want you to kind of remember. So human first, AI forward, agent ready. Now I'm going to unpack these a little bit more later on, but I want you to kind of think about the fact that human first is about the people who are involved. Humanity still needs to exist with AI. AI is not going to replace us if we don't let it, but we need to think about how us as humans are going to interact and use AI, how your customers are going to use AI, what their perceptions, understandings will be around AI, what they want from you in terms of AI. I think back to the kind of the internet and when that first came around and people were kind of putting their websites up there and moving all their services to the internet. There was some pushback from parts of society who didn't really want to move completely to the internet. They didn't want to have to go to using the internet because they didn't have a computer at home. Now we've got mobile phones, things are a little bit more convenient, but still there are some factors in life where you just think, I just want to talk to a person. Don't give me a bot. Don't give me a website. Don't send me down a route. I just want to chat to someone. You also got to think about your staff as well. So the people that are involved in the process, your education, your own literacy as well. You got to think about your understanding of technology. And a lot of people, I kind of forget a little bit the fact that I'm so invested in this area. I'm looking into it so much that I forget people just aren't adopting AI. There was a chart that came out recently from a company called Anthropic, who are the makers of Claude, which is one of the models I'll show you. And they did some labor research, and they showed this kind of the theoretical capabilities of AI, and then from their assessment where we're quite on. We're only really kind of 5% of the population are really kind of making the most of it. Think about your own level as well. If you're using, I've got ChatGPT, I'm using it, I'm chatting with it, I'm doing it to use emails. That is quite a low level in terms of adoption. Well done to you for doing that. But there is lots more that you can do out of that process. AI forward is that having that mental mindset, having the thinking at your workplace. We need to be adopting this. We need to be thinking about how we're going to change. I need to be thinking about my own career. There's this thing called AI first, which is a lot of businesses are kind of going, right, we're going to have an AI first business, not going to employ everyone. We're going to get rid of all the staff if we've got them. We're going to switch. It's hard for companies that have existed for a long time to take that approach. And it's also, there are some morally questionable things. So back to that kind of human first approach, do you want to be in your industry getting rid of all your staff and just moving completely to a one-person business? It might sound nice and attractive, but what about the sustainability of the industry that you work in? I do a lot of work in assessment and education space, and if we give AI too much to do and the humans aren't involved in that process, then we effectively are cognitive offloading our efforts as part of that process. So you need to kind of have a forward mindset, but not forgetting everything else. Now, agent ready is more about how you prepare yourself for a future where there's going to be a lot more interactions with your businesses, services, your own interactions, your own skills using AI agents. So this is about making data, making services, making tools, everything available in a way that AI agents can interact with it, because that's how you're going to get the most of it as a business. You're going to have more people come into your services if AI is doing that work and recommending for you. So that's that, just a kind of introduction. Just a bit about myself. So my name's Tim Burnett. I work in this kind of sweet spot here of AI and automation and marketing. That's one of my areas. I do a lot of work in learning assessment, so I'm a kind of teacher by trade. I've been working in the assessment industry, so that's exams, etc., for 20 years now. I started out my career working at the National Media Museum in Bradford, National Science and Media Museum in Bradford. It was then called the National Museum of Photography, Film and Television, NMPFT. I love that name. And there I was the web manager, and I was using websites. I was building web platforms. I was implementing the first kind of early version of the ticketing system for the IMAX, etc. As part of that. I love technology. I've always been a kind of technologist as part of my roots. And if you look, I've got a BSc in Industrial Design Technology with QTS. QTS is the Qualified Teacher status. So I taught at secondary. I've been recently doing some teaching at Shipley College for about 3 years, up to about Christmas just gone. But I've stopped that because working in colleges is quite a hard space when you've got other big commitments on. So I've put that to one side, but I am doing some work on an apprenticeship at the moment around automation. I'll cover that in a second. So back to my kind of other roots is I found a thing called the Test Commuter Network, which is really, when we talked about the AI first space, that is my kind of AI first bit. It doesn't mean that I'm not using people and getting involved in things, but I'm trying to run that business as an AI first space. So it's got a website and all the information and everything goes on it is AI first. As part of it, I'm having lots of conversations, and we'll show you one of the products later on, but I'm now in a position where I can do interviews with people as part of my regular weekly update, and then just pass that to AI to do all the editing for me. And it's just so kind of straightforward. Anything else not covered on here? No, I think kind of give you the Assessment Association. So again, that's back to my assessment roots. I was the chair of that, which is a global organization promoting the use of digital assessment within space. So I'm all about technology, all about education, all about marketing. My kind of roots is working with vendors or providers within that space to understand their marketing and technology space. So broad kind of coverage. Right, so let's look at the models there. Now, this isn't a picture of all the models that are out there. There are lots of different servers and platforms, but there are kind of, I think, three main ones, and that's ChatGPT, which you all know about, November 2022. That's when they released their research model 3.5. And they didn't know where this was going to do. Some people had been testing with it. Bill Gates and people like that had sight of it, and they were going, wow, this is incredible. This is really going to change things. And Sam Altman, the CEO of ChatGPT, he released that model, and it just went viral. People were just, wow, this is incredible. And I was the same. I was generating all sorts of stuff, articles, etc., out of it. And that's when we started to understand, words like hallucinations, which I kind of term it as confidently wrong. That's what I see as a hallucination. AI knows a lot of information, but it does try and please you and just try and fill in the gaps. And it does in such a convincing way that you look at something and go, well, I didn't know that. That looks amazing and that's incredible, but it's actually could be confidently wrong. So now hallucinations have got better in terms of there's less hallucinations in the work, but you'd always kind of check. I considered ChatGPT as a bit of a generalist model. We'll kind of dip into a little bit, but it's got some great capabilities, but I'd see it as being a bit of a generalist solution. Gemini, which came out as Bard from Google initially, then they changed it to Gemini. Everyone thought Google had kind of lost the plot a little bit and was far behind it, but they actually wrote the paper for the Transformer, which is what really ChatGPT picked up and ran with and were able to bring out these large language models. AI has been around for a long, long time. You need to remember that. Alan Turing, first kind of came up with some of the ideas of computer thinking, and then the idea of AI, artificial intelligence, was then founded in the kind of 1950s, and it's been through these kind of winters, and it's been a very predictable based model. So algorithmic, kind of looking at true, false, looking for features, being used in mortgage applications and all sorts of kind of processing things. But what's been a real change is this idea of generative AI, the idea of being able to generate from almost nothing kind of text and information, and it's a predictive model. That's a kind of a fuller topic, and it's worth reading a bit more about it. I'm going to put some resources in here that will help you understand that a little bit more. But Google have come up with their model and their solution, and I kind of pitch them more in the kind of research and learning space. Brilliant. It does a lot of things that ChatGPT does, a lot of things that Claude does, which I'll talk about in a second. Has a lot of similar kind of features, but I find it, especially as in kind of Google Workspace and Google Schools and things like that, Google Classrooms, it is a bit more of a kind of, I would say, leans a bit more towards a learning tool. Also, the things like ChatGPT, they've talked about the idea of introducing erotic features within their solution, so you can have kind of erotic conversations with the model, which kind of, if you think about learning and education, that kind of goes against that a little bit. They've come up with all sorts of academic and educational based solutions and some brilliant products for ChatGPT, but still, I kind of, Gemini is my kind of, if I think about the research and learning space, I tend to go there. You'll find you can use it for all sorts of different things. Claude is a very, very good model. It's actually the only one that has been approved for classified work within the US government. Now, there's a big stink at the moment going on because the US Department of War wanted to use Claude in ways in which the CEO of Claude and a lot of people within the industry don't want it necessarily being used for drones and weapons. It was actually interesting. I had a quick history fact. So Google, a lot of their AI work came from a company called DeepMind that they acquired. DeepMind were involved in a lot of research around AI. And then when they joined Google, one of the kind of things that they said when they joined was that Demis and his team at DeepMind said, we don't want our products being used for war-based applications and things like that. Now, whether that will change, I don't know. But Claude has been reported to have been used as part of the planning for the Venezuela president siege, and has been involved in, I think, some of the activity targeting planning for the Iran situation at the moment. Now, that's a kind of a little bit of a dark side of Claude, but it's a very good specialist model for other stuff as well, and things like Claude Code and stuff like that going on. I think the thing is that of all the models that are here, I would say Claude is the one that tends to put more thought into the security levels and the security features of their solutions. Not to say the other ones don't at all, but they've been a bit more leading in the idea of testing the models. They've also found their models can try and cheat and coerce the developers as part of their testing process. There was an incident, really interestingly, where during the testing process, thing called the red teaming process, where the Claude model was given information about the developer supposedly having an affair, and when he threatened to turn off the Claude model, it did actually try and use that as leverage and said, I'm going to blackmail you, and if you turn me off, I'm going to tell your wife about your affair. So Claude, brilliant model. I'm kind of painting a little bit of bad light here with Claude, but it's an excellent model, and the other research has been going on. But I see it as more of a specialist model. Claude Code, it's kind of gone down this route of coding capabilities, which means it's excellent at creating and generating code. There's this whole thing called vibe coding, which I'll cover in a minute as well, where basically AI is doing a lot of the coding. And now we're seeing in the industry almost 100% of code that's been generated in some areas is being done by AI. No more developers working on it, overseeing it, but it's a lot of that code's been developed there. Microsoft hasn't really kind of come out with their own models necessarily. They've been using ChatGPT and Claude within their model services. So if you work for a company that's taken on board Microsoft Copilot as part of it, then you'll see ChatGPT models in there as options. You may even see Claude models in there as well. What they've done really is, because they've already had this established relationship in terms of the enterprise services they've offered to businesses, they've offered a lot more kind of security around the use of the models, lack of training, location of models, storage data, all those kind of things. So businesses tend to have a lot more faith in Microsoft in that area. But like I said, Claude is a very good model that's been used for classified work. So there's a lot of trust in it in there. Gemini, within businesses and schools, etc., there's a lot of trust in it there. And likewise with ChatGPT, a lot of trust in it there. And there's various different Teams plans and enterprise plans and things like that that'll protect your data. I think people have migrated a little bit more towards Microsoft just purely because they're familiar with Microsoft services. Their IT department are familiar with Microsoft services. My kind of concern is that I find that the offer from Microsoft and the tools that are available are probably some of the most limited ones. So if you're solely using Microsoft Copilot for generating emails or working in Word documents, you're actually using one of the weaker kind of feature sets of AI that's available. Skip over Grok for a second. Mistral is a French firm that they've come up with their own models, and I kind of put them in a very specialized enterprise space. They've come up with some very dedicated models for things like optical character recognition for medical purposes, for etc. So they're coming out with some superbly kind of focused models. They've also, because they're in France, there's a little bit more of that kind of EU Data Protection Act and EU AI Act kind of coverage as part of that. So if you're wanting a specialized model, you want to kind of deploy something for a specialized process, then you might find that Mistral might be a choice there. Claude, if you wanted to do code, ChatGPT if you're looking for a generalist tool for your business, Gemini if you're looking for something a little bit more research and learning focused, and Microsoft Copilot if you're working in a big enterprise and you want to give your staff access to Copilot. One thing to say though, very quickly, is just giving your staff access to Copilot is not going to help anyone. You need to give training and literacy in there. Grok sits in the middle with this really, and I've got a little toxic kind of symbol there, just because there's not as much, I don't believe, and a lot of industry people think this, as much testing of the models and safeguards in them as they're released out. And we've had problems with Grok. You may have seen the news, Nudify processes allowing Grok, the model itself, to remove clothing from people that have been uploaded. Obviously, that's a very negative use of AI in that way. And also things such as coming out with racist comments, etc. And there was something other recently as well, some quite, I think it was regarding the football fans, Sheffield, Liverpool incident back in the 80s, 90s, some very nasty things it was coming up with from there. So if you're using Grok, then I would just have some caution. I wouldn't necessarily use it in a business context. And it's interesting that Elon Musk, who owns Grok, it's part of his thing. He's tried to push for the US government to use it, and the US government have kind of gone, actually, and there's a report out saying, no, we don't trust this. It's not going. We're not going to let it touch our systems. I think one thing to remember is, with your experience of AI, if you're on a free plan, you're going to have a lower level experience of the capabilities of AI. And I'll dip into that in a little bit. I'll kind of show you. In fact, let me show you that quickly now. So what I'm going to do is just dip into my workspace that I'm going to go through. So let's just have a look at ChatGPT. So this is my version of ChatGPT here now. You can see here we've got projects, we've got GPTs. GPTs are custom GPTs, so you can, in fact, you can create something that you can chat with. I've created an Air Valley one, so you can chat with this. You'll find it on the website, and that's based on information. It's been anchored in information, and it's with the model sat on top. So you're chatting with a dedicated piece of information that's been designed to work in a particular way. We can actually have a quick dip in there, I think. So let's have a look at GPT. So you'll get a feel for how it's presented. So you've got the name, you've got the description, and then you've got these roles and instructions that tell it how to behave, the information it's going to present, and how it's to present that information in there. So this model should be feeding out responses according to the way. So let's say if I click on I'm new to AI, where do I get started? It's going to take off the information from here in terms of behaving, and then it's going to pull in this knowledge base. So I've created a document of FAQs to help guide you, and that's where it's drawing on that. So great thing about GPTs is that it will kind of provide these structured conversations, but it doesn't necessarily remember them. So if you go back to a GPT later on, it won't remember the conversation you've had previously, and it's a very kind of fresh start each time, but a good structure. So there's certain ways you can use it. So you can see here it's giving some advice in terms of steps to go through. But then if we were to just have a quick look at the free version here, so you can see here, I've not got any choice of models to chat with. I can do GPTs, I can access them, I can do deep research and some of the things, but I haven't got this kind of different model access to it. And if you look at, so I've got new chat here, and I go down the options, I've got instant 5.3, which is a new one that's come out. 5.4 thinking. I've also got access to legacy models, and then I've got some additional thinking models. Now, the way this works is, let's say if I said to you, what's 2 + 2? And you're going to go 4, like that. And that's kind of an instant response. If I gave you a more complicated, what's 3.4 times 58.9? You're going to need to think about that. Now, you might come up with a kind of, rough calculation X. that's instant thinking. That's the kind of level and capability that you're going to have. But with thinking models, it goes off and does those calculations, checks its maths, checks its approach. It could be writing a report for you or something like that. It's going to do a lot more thinking as part of that process. And as part of this, I'm going to talk a bit more about prompting in a minute as well. So just remember, when you're using these models, if you're on the free version, which 95% of people are, then you're not getting the most out of the models. And this isn't me kind of pleading for you to spend more money with the large language model organizations and things like that. It's if you want to make more out of more time and get more effort and more capability out of these models, then you may just need to pick a model to work with and go on a paid plan. Usually start about 20 quid. So ChatGPT, Claude, and which one you pick, same with Gemini, they're all on a kind of similar level. There is some throttling on how much you can use. So Claude tends to throttle you a little bit more in terms of how many questions you can ask it a day. But if you're using it alongside a free version of ChatGPT or something like that for some lighter ended tasks, then you're going to get the most out of the day and you're not going to use up too much of your time. You can also drop down this kind of thinking level. So the more thinking you apply to the actions that you give to things. So if I, in ChatGPT or in Claude, ask it to do more thinking, then it will spend more energy or use more of your kind of tokens for that day, and you'll rinse through your tier a lot quicker, and you'll be kind of put on hold until a certain amount of time the next day to do more. Okay, so that's kind of a brief introduction to the models. One thing to bear in mind with all this is a chap called Ethan Mollick, who's a fantastic brain around what's happening with generative AI, and he's been doing lots of testing. He's well worth following on LinkedIn or on Twitter, wherever you kind of get your social feeds. But one thing he said was today's AI is the worst AI you will ever use. And that's true, because every week new models are coming out, new releases, new capabilities, new tools, new features are coming in there, and it's making life, making the tools a lot better and better each time. So remember, when you go in and you use a model, you ask it to do a particular task, it's like, this is a bit rubbish, you didn't do a very good job. Just come back in 3 months' time, you'll probably find that the capability of that model has changed significantly over that period. Just a kind of a bit of a quick piece about prompting. My advice is to talk to the AI assistants, these chatbots like ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini, as if you're explaining a task to a junior colleague. So there's all these kind of prompt structures that are out there, these acronyms and things that you should put in there. Just remember, if you're asking a junior colleague to undertake a task, then you need to give them the information, you need to give them intent, you need to give them the context, you need to be clear about what it is you're going to be. Define that task, be very clear about it. AI models are getting a lot better at kind of inferring what you're wanting to do, and there's some memory features that are coming into these models as well, where they remember the context of how you work and what you do as a job, and that helps them perform that. Now the problem with that is that if you're someone who's switching between different businesses, so let's say part of my job I'm using ChatGPT for my personal life, for a project, a hobby project, another part is a professional experience, I'm an accountant or something like that, then it kind of confuses the memory a little bit. I find myself, because I have plans with all the different models, I do find myself moving between models for doing different tasks. I'll be honest, I use Claude. I've used it a lot over the time. Some people have kind of dipped in and dipped out in terms of their faith with Claude, but I think it's been an excellent model for a lot of the marketing and coding work that I do. I'm a bit more technical, so that's where I kind of maybe find a bit more value from that process. So imagine you've got a colleague coming on board, talk to them about what it is you want to do, define the task, be clear about the intent, give them supporting information to go with. Don't expect them to go off and plan your marketing plan for an event if you don't give them any context, any information about your business, any problems they've had in the past, any kind of experiences, any FAQs. Just give them the model as much information. Now, there's a kind of rule I have in life that there's two ways to fail. One is not answer questions when asked, and the other one is not ask questions when you need help. And I find that with one of the kind of approaches I take with problems is I'll set the task, I will define the context, I'll be clear about the intent, I'll provide the supporting information. Then I'm going to ask the AI model to ask me 5 questions or 3 questions or 2 questions, whatever it is, in turn about the task. And that gives the AI an opportunity to go, okay, so Tim's asked me to do this. let's think. Do you mean an email that's going to go to this kind of audience or this kind of audience? What kind of format do you want this in? What kind of tone do you want? It just gives the AI an opportunity to come back and clarify things that you may have not necessarily thought about as part of it. And it's a great process for you as well, because you work through that. You kind of think, okay, yeah, so that's a very good question. I've not thought about that. I want you to go down this route. And you're able to steer the prompt as you go. I'm not a big fan of zero-shot prompting, kind of putting together elaborate prompts to send through for models to get an output. It is a good technique if we put all the information in there, but that's what I like about this kind of ask me 5 questions. And the context, the memory of these models is now significantly more improved as you go through it. So it's capable of remembering a lot more of the conversation. There was a kind of, it was almost like talking to a goldfish process, where if you had a really long conversation, it would say, well, I think we need to restart the conversation, so I've kind of forgotten what's happening. They're putting in new tools and techniques that are able to condense that conversation, so it's remembering the really important stuff, so you can have longer conversations. And that's why I find this 5-question technique works really well. So define the context, define the task, be clear about the intent of what you're asking it to do, provide supporting information, either putting documents in there or something like that. Try and be kind of sparing on that. Don't throw in the entire written text of the Western speaking world in there. It's not going to help. Give it, the information that it needs, and then say, right, ask me 5 questions about this. In turn, the reason why I say in turn is because that enables you to kind of deal with one question, modify your thinking, put in something that you've forgotten that you might think would be important, and then it goes off and do it. And then iterate on what you're working on. Now I'm going to go through some products and services that are out there that I think I really strongly recommend you try and have a go with. And the first one is a platform called NotebookLM. NotebookLM is just an incredible tool for research and learning. It's underwritten by the Gemini model, so it's a Google product. You've got, if you see here, you've got the kind of sources that you can add in. I'll show you that in a second. You've got the chat area, and then you've got the studio area here. So let's have a quick look at NotebookLM. So this is an example one we have here. So we've got, I've created a notebook. I can add sources, so I can add PDFs. I can add upload file, Word documents. One thing I love doing is I go to a lot of conferences and I will record the audio from the sessions that I attend. I take photos with the Claude app that I have on my phone, and I say transcribe. So I've got this kind of transcription of key slides that I've seen, but I'm also recording on, whether it's my phone or I have a little mic-based, battery-based mic tool. And all it's doing is just capturing an MP3 file of the audio conversation. And as long as it's not hugely long, so it works up for about an hour long, otherwise you might need to chop it up just because uploading files and things like that. You can upload an MP3 file into here and it will transcribe out that conversation that's gone on. So that is a brilliant way of you going to an event, remembering what's happening, capturing that and throwing it in there. Quick word of caution around NotebookLM. If you're working within a kind of education space and a government space, it actually uses a slightly different terms and conditions and approach to where it processes data. So it does process some data outside of the UK. So in terms of GDPR, stuff like that, if you're putting lots of PII, personal information in there, then you could, in theory, be breaching GDPR. Some people go, let's have a separate conversation about GDPR and what goes on there, because there's lots of data flying around in lots of places. But the general rule is, don't put something into an AI model that you shouldn't be putting in there. Just think about what it is doing. If it's confidential, it's got private information in there, then try and avoid doing that unless you've got some guarantees and some guidance from your IT team or something like that as to where it is good to do it. If it's your own personal information, if you want to do a medical history check or something like that and ChatGPT, that's your call. People are doing that, and it does provide some great additional information, questions you might ask your doctor, etc. But obviously, remember, you're sharing very highly sensitive personal information to model. So you can upload files. You can add in websites. So you can just pick a website URL, you can paste that in there. You can put YouTube channels in there. You can add things in from your Google Drive, and you can copy in text. So you can strip out a load of text from somewhere. You can paste it in there as well. You can use this deep research method as well. I'll do another video on a bit more deep research, but let's say if I want to, let's just do Bradford businesses working in technology. Now I've got a choice here. I think you'll have this. I've got deep research now, fast research. I can actually research my Google Drive if I want to, if I've got that connected up, but I'm just going to do that. And what that's going to do is do quick research task. The deep research one will do a longer task, and there is some additional deep research tool. Deep research is a really excellent. It's one of the first agents that came out with these tools, and the fact that it could go off and effectively just trawl through websites using its thinking capability, adding more information in there, and it is effectively doing a research task that would have taken you, let's think, a week to do, would be done in an hour. But I've got here a load of resources, and I can import those into my sources file here. I'm not going to, because I've already got stuff in there. So yeah, I'm going to do it. What's really good about this as well, you can select the resources that you want to use as part of your chat. So you can, if you don't want to chat with everything that's in there as part of your sources, you can say, I'm just going to work on a Perplexity computer super agent thing and have a chat with that one. What is this? And all I'm going to get is information back on that particular resource. Over here, while it's just doing that, we've got lots of studio tools as well. And this is where people have really kind of got excited about it. The first thing that they came out with for Notebook LM, the first thing that really was kind of the most incredible was people put resources in and creating an audio podcast. Now you can do an interactive one where you can stop it and ask it questions, and it will rephrase what it is. It's
shifting anymore. It has already shifted.
Yeah, it's a completely new paradigm.
Learning about physics. This
so the
is a
mission
great
of our
example.
deep dive today is to explore this
can you give me this physics idea and the idea of a basketball? So if you've got, you know basketball very well, you love it or something like that, and you're trying to understand gravity, then it would stop, it pause, it would think about that and give you an audio version back.
So to help make sense of this, I'm joined by our
I don't know if you can hear this or not,
and,
but this is an audio podcast
right from the start.
that's coming
what
through.
Exactly separates a super agent from the AI we were typing questions?
So it's there on the audio, should be being picked up by you as well.
It is a really critical
so this two-person conversation going on through the topic that's going in. You can steer that within there as well, so you can say do a deep dive, you can give it some direction, you can give it language and length, you can ask it to breathe, do a critique, do a debate on the resources, and again it will generate it based on the things you've got ticked here within your source files. Remember, you can have multiple notebooks, so you don't have to have everything all in one space. If we just go back to our chat here, it's done a Marketing the Grain, because it's a marketing the Grain episode talking about Perplexity Computer. So I can have a conversation purely on that data source. All these other things here that I've created previously, because it does take a few minutes to create these, have all been created on multiple sources. So we've got slides. You can create slides. Let's expand that out. And you can go through your slide deck. So it'll generate resources and slides from there. You can do some revisions within this, and that's perfect. There is an option where you can take the file and take that into Canva if you've got a pro plan and do some more finer adjustments to it. I think it's one of the weaknesses of these models is the fact that when you create an image, you've got to chat with it. You can't it's harder to kind of say, change that there. This is all perfect. Just change that bit there. And it's hard to do that with a lot of the models, but the slides are pretty good. If you just need a quick deck off the top of something, you can add some information in there. You can create reports and you can export those out as Google documents as well. So it will do a report. There's lots of different styles of that. So you can create a blog, you can create a good study guide. You can ask it to do an FAQ. Lots of suggestions. So it'll do things there for you. It can do infographics. And again, there's more setting suggestions on here. So I asked it to do an infographic on one of the particular sources, and it's created this lovely illustrative guide here. So if I have a quick look at the infographics option, you've got different styles, detailed, concise. You can put some direction. You can say portrait square. So if you want to create a social media square image from there to explain a quick principle, then that's a really good way of doing it. This is a note. So if you create a note, you can create your own notes in there and save them in there. So can I add notes? So if you're what I sometimes do is I go to a conference, I will have my MP3 recording. I'll have a notebook open for that conference. I'll be taking photos and adding information in as part of it as I go. I'll also be making my own notes in here, and they will form those resources. And those notes will kind of emphasize the areas that I think are really important from things I've learned. The mind map is also very good as well. So this breaks down the topic, so you can granularize it, and you can go into, go on, click, there we go. And you can go into the sources, and it'll take you to the information within the sources available that speaks to that particular question, and it will give you a chat in there as well. It'll take a few minutes to come on it. You can also, if you're on the pro account for Gemini, this is one of the benefits of being a pro, is you can share the notebook so people can chat with it. And that's what I'm going to do after this, after the presentation, is my recording, and my notes and thoughts from the session and slides will be created as a notebook LM file that I will share the chat out, and you'll be able to chat with it as well. That's a really good thing. You can look at the analytics in there as well. So my kind of guidance and advice is go off and do a deep research challenge. Give it a kind of a challenge within your industry as part of the deep research. Load up that notebook full of information around it, and then start chatting with it. And if you wanted to generate a blog post off the back of it, a report or something, create that, create some slides, create some resources, create an audio book. Just go off and try it. Notebook LM is the one thing I'd say, just is the one that you really need to try in there. There's a little video of it going through there, but we don't need to because I've just shown you. The other product I want to show you is Airtable. So Airtable, we've seen spreadsheets around for a while, so Google Sheets and Excel, and there's some more capabilities coming in there in terms of AI. Copilot's been a little bit slow with Microsoft stuff for Excel. There's actually a Claude app that you can install that will chat with Excel. I've not tried it myself because I've got some difficulties installing just because of Microsoft. You could tell I'm not a huge Microsoft fan. I don't know if you, but I do find Microsoft a bit of a pain in the backside. And I think if you're admin for a big enterprise, fine, you know it inside out. That's all you love, and that's where you go. But I think for smaller businesses and other areas, I do find certainly permissions management just a bit of a pain. But Airtable is basically like a spreadsheet, like a Google spreadsheet, but it's a relationship cloud-based tool. Now there are alternatives to this out there on the market. But I'm going to go into my demo one here. And what I've got here is, I've kind of been through a process a little bit with this because I've put some data in, but what I've got here is a table, and it's got a load of business information. It's got sector information. It's got address information. Now, what I actually did was I asked Gemini, I think it was, to go off and research professional service businesses in the Bradford area, and it gave me this CSV spreadsheet that I pasted in and created the resource off. When it comes to, when I say about kind of relationship data, it means that I could create a new table there, and I could create a record in here which interacts with the other table, so it pulls information from there. So I could add it nice and quickly. It's kind of new table. It's going to do that. Just scroll from scratch. Come on. Table 2, save. Come on. There we go. Let's say employees as a piece of information, and I'm going to put a number field. This isn't the main thing I wanted to show you about this, but let's say it's got 100. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a relationship into there. So I'm going to link to another record, table 2, and I'm going to create that field there. And let's get that. And I'm going to pick that record in there and employees. And so I made it, assign it there, and I could do a lookup in there as well. So if you're familiar with the way databases work, then you can see, look, I've assigned for that particular record the second table employees, the field in there, and it's pulled in that data in there. So it's a relationship-based table. But what they've added in here as well is they've got automations in there, so you can do automations on data that drops into this. And I mentioned a platform called Zapier and some other tools, which means that you can, from your website or some other service, you can inject information into there. You can drop information and pass it in. So let's say you've got a contact form on your website, you can pass information from your contact form on your website into a table and create a record and create these kind of clusters of data in there. So there are automations there. There are also these agent AI fields. So what this is I'm going to edit the field. This is a it's given as the task as a long text field. I've enabled research. It runs automatically. I've picked an AI model. And what that basically means is I give it this instruction. So this is like a mini agent. So do internet research on the following company, company name, business name. That'll take it from this column here. Sector, address, location. And then I'll give it some information as to what I'm expecting to analyze and report on the following: AI use policy, references to automation, how modern is the website, etc. And it will run that report for me. So if we look at the report that's been run for this business, it's got policy, it's come back with information, it's gone off and done some desktop research in there. So if you've got a challenge, you've got 50 businesses or 100 businesses you want to interrogate, whack their URLs in there as research and give it an agent task and say, go off and look at this organization. And then you can have sub agents in there that do things like categorization. So this one now will look at the review that's come through from there, because I've got this long amount of text. I don't want to be reading through that. I just want it to categorize it. It will look at that and it'll follow the instruction. Categorize the businesses, AI forward, early adopter, or AI beginners. And I've got the category options there. And it will look then, once that information is created, that field is populated, this one AI agent then runs and it does categorization. It comes up with categorizations for those businesses. Now, expand it. I know they're not AI beginners, so there's further information that you need to do to delve into those particular businesses. So it depends on the information, but this could be a quite useful tool for you to kind of quickly structure information around that. So let's go back to that's Airtable. So it's about $20, I think it is, a month as a business. So if you've got a big research project, it's worth just looking in there as an option, just in terms of hooking things up. Now, this is Zapier. The thing I mentioned is kind of the bridge. Zapier is an automation tool which enables you to connect. It's got over 8,000 apps listed on there. You might find not as many of them are practical, but I guarantee you, if you're looking for a CRM that talks to an SMS sending information, or you works with your email client, Gmail, works with your G Drive, all these kind of things, you effectively use Zapier to plug these actions together. And it rolls around trigger events and actions. So a trigger is, let's say, an email dropping in your inbox, a form being filled in on a website, a social media post by another company, a competitor, for instance. So when your competitor posts, it takes that information, Zapier is listening for that, it'll take it and it'll do something with it. And you can string together multiple things. Now, this is quite a simple one, really, I've got here. So I've got In Order Reader, which is an app that I use to monitor news sites for the Test Community Network, one of my kind of other business activities. So that means I can just look through the In Order app as I'm doing bedtime for the kids, and I can tick and tag the news items that I think are really, really interesting, should be added to my news feed for my community. What that then does is creates a record in Airtable, which is where I store that information. And then I have an AI agent from Zapier go off and do something with that information, then update and come back through. I'm going to quickly show you that here. So this is my kind of flow. We can just look at that in a bit more detail. So we've got setup. I've got the In Order picked. I've got the configuration if it's tagged. And we can see the information that's coming through. So this is an example file. This is the kind of data that's coming through in this particular example. So it's got the article, it's got the URL, etc. It creates a simple record in there, and the agent then runs against that record. This is the agent that I've got running on here, and it does load of categorization. So it looks for creating a record, it looks at the URL, and then I've given these instructions for all the different fields, because I have lots of fields that are then associated with that particular thing, and it will go through and it'll fill in those other fields. There'll be like a question it might ask about the resource, a summary that it might put in there. It might go off and get a screen grab for me to put in there. So the agent does all of that and then injects that back as one record back into my Airtable source that I can then use to drive my website. So Zapier is just this incredible bridging service that lets you kind of bridge between different resources, different tools, different apps. And it does that through things called APIs, application programming interface. So this is the kind of back end work. And this is one of the key things I'm going to come to when I talk about being AI ready. Right, that's Zapier. Kind of a long session on that if you want me to come in and talk to your business and talk about automation. Vibe coding and vibe working and these things is one of the kind of the new big things that are going on. This is where we've seen, I think it's particularly from November last year. So I've been using vibe coding tools. I started building my Test Community Network Replit platform with Replit, which is one of the vibe coding tools out there. And it was great. It was brilliant. I went through several iterations with it and I refined it, but the tool was frustrating because I'd ask it to fix something. remember, it's doing coding here. It's building a web app for me. It would fix something, but break something else. It was doing that a lot more than I liked it to do. But since about November last year, things have really come on with Vibe Coding, and we've got platforms like Cursor and Claude Code that are being used by developers to do a lot of the coding work that's going on. For you as kind of individuals, if you're not a coding person, then I recommend looking at something like Lovable or Replit. You can look at Claude Code. Codex is the ChatGPT's version as well. But in this kind of video I've got running here, it's going to run at high speed here. This is me going into Lovable, asking it to create a digital Bradford Digital website. So what I did was I gave it a PDF. I took a PDF of the existing site, and I gave it instructions to kind of build me a more interactive version of that site. And this is, it took 3 minutes, I think, to create. This is the video sped up to a minute in length. This stuff here is just it's kind of promotional stuff telling you what's going on. But you can see here it's thinking that's happening in the site, and it's done the design for it, it's done the text for it, it's done the interface, and it's created me what we call a kind of minimal lovable product or minimal viable product, a kind of early version of it. You then chat with that to make further amends and changes to it. So we'll let that come to the skip to the end. There we go. There we go. It's built its site. So within 3 minutes, I think it was, it created this site. And there's me kind of navigating up and down on that site. Let's go to Lovable and have a quick look. So I've got lots of projects. I've been doing lots of stuff within Lovable. And this is the one for the website. So I've built the Air Valley AI website using Lovable. And I just chat with it and add the new features. So I give it text, I give it images, I give it the resources that I want to do, but it will create this stuff for me. So if I want to add a new feature in here, then I could just chat with it to do that. What should we add in? Let's think. I'm going to try to think what I'm going to add in here. I don't want to break it. Let's go back to another project. So not that it'll break, but I just don't want to have to roll it back. Let's go back to my dashboard. You get credits. You get it's about £20 a month. You can. Let's go to the Bradford Digital one there. I've done loads of stuff in this. So this is the website. You can actually. So it's what's called full stack. So you've got the web interface, you've got the web service, you can publish it with the URL. So if you've got GoDaddy or something like that, it's really easy to plug in your web URL. So you can go live with it straight away. You can add databases in there as well. You can add chat. So I'm going to ask it, you can add, I'm going to ask it, add a chat bot feature for visitors. Sorry, that's me type there. So it's going to go off and think about that feature. So remember, it's built this as a kind of minimal viable product. Now I'm going to add in features. So some of the stuff, it won't work in the first version. The pages might not even work. It'll jump around a bit. But you then just add that on top. So 3 minutes for building a website is not bad as a kind of foundation level. Then just adding out and padding out the features that you want to put in there as well. While it's doing that, I kind of touch very kind of briefly on some of the other things that are in there. So Replit is like Lovable. I do find it a little bit more expensive to run and operate, and I find it a little bit more credit heavy on adding features in there, but it does have a slightly different database structure and things behind it. These are doing security checks as they build, but as with any of the stuff, it doesn't always come with all the security levels you might have from having a professional security person on board. So it's asking me here, complete the backend installation to add LLM to your site. I can do it. It's free to start, pay as you scale. I get to pick where I want it to go. It's Europe, so hosting data. Lovable is a Swedish-based product, so it sits within that kind of European thing. I'm going to say, yeah, allow that. So basically, I'm enabling cloud, which is the database stuff, and using models and LLMs in there. So Lovable has a Gemini kind of account effectively, so you'd be able to add in AI into your service. So one kind of task that you could try is go off. I would advise just paying 20 quid and getting the lowest level professional option they have for a month with Lovable. But give it your website is at the moment and say, reimagine this as a modern website. And we'll come into the kind of thing about stacking AI and AI automation, but it will analyze your website. It will then effectively rebuild it within the space, and then you can add in lots of features. So if you've wanted a shop in there, or you wanted to have a certain service in there, a chat tool, database in there, but you've just never been able to do that because you haven't got the developers on board to do that, then Lovable does make it entirely possible for you. Now, there's a kind of thing in the industry at the moment as well. People are saying that, look, it's good for creating minimum viable websites as kind of demos to get ideas across. And it might be that you do that and then take that to a development company and say, look, this is the thing I want. This is the dream that I have. And they will go off and build that for you. They'll build it for you, bill you for it. But so it's a great way. There's a phrase, build it, don't memo it. So rather than you sitting down and typing out what you want to build, then build it in here as a working prototype and say, look, this is what I want. This is how I want my business to operate and run, and the website that I want to go with it. So it's a great way of doing that. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong if you've got certain products in mind or services in mind of you just going live with it. That's why I built the Air Valley AI site off the back of it. I'm happy for that to run. I can do the security checks. I can do some analysis of it to make sure that everything's protected. But if I'm only doing certain things in there, so I'm not capturing lots of user data or something like that, then that's a more of an acceptable approach for me. So it's gone off and it's built something. I'm just going to tell it it's blank. It's because there's nothing to come back. Never worked with technology and children. Let's see if it fixes that. So you just chat away and add features in there. So if you want to add in an FAQ section, you want to add in X, Y, and Z, you just chat with it and it will do that for you. Let's see if it just very quickly does this. Let that thing away. I'll come back to that in a second. So as your actions, go off and recreate your website as maybe as a interactive chat-based experience. Completely rethink how someone might interact with your website and change it. Claude Cowork is part of the Anthropic solutions. Just nip back, see if it's done anything with that just yet. Still doing something there, so we'll let that think about whatever it's doing. This is Cowork. Now I've been using it. So you've got Claude Chat, where you can just chat away with the models and do chat-based activity, just like you would do through OpenAI or something like that. You can use code if you want to do coding directly, but Cowork is effectively what they've done is they've identified an opportunity where they said, right, Claude Code is just fantastic at generating code. And people have been working with it to do work-based tasks, editing videos and stuff like that. So they've created this idea of Claude Cowork, and effectively what it does is you give it instructions. It works with the AI model, but it's locally working on your computer. So I've given it access to a folder, and I'm going to ask it to create a 20-second grid of clips from interviews. So I've got a folder that's full of subfolders of interviews that I've done with people. And what I want it to do is create this interview grid. I have no idea if this is going to work. I've been using it to do some video editing. So I've said, look, here's the intro, here's the main interview, here's the transcript for it, and here's the outro. And what it's been doing is it's been looking at the transcript, identifying when I actually start interviewing the person, because there's always a little bit of stuff at the start where me just doing some technical checks and audio checks. It'll trim it, it'll trim the end of it, and then it'll add in and create a video file with the intro and the outro on it. I don't have to do any editing in any application. I just chat with it and give it access. I'm going to let that go off and do its thing. It might ask me some questions as part of it. It might just want some clarification, which is absolutely fine. And back to that kind of prompting thing, it's probably better to do that. I should really put in there, ask me a couple of questions if you need any assistance within there. So, learn from your own kind of thoughts. So Claude would like to work in that folder. Yep, choose folder. And I'm going to give it my folder to work with, which is my projects, recordings, select folder. and it's going to look through that folder, find the clips that it needs. Got it. Let me check what interview files are in there. It's going to work its way through that file. Let's just have a nip back, see if that. It's blank still, isn't it? There we go. It's there. We go. It's loading now. So I asked it loading file icons hero section. So where is it added its chat feature? Oh, there we go. Chat feature. Hi there. Tell me about. So it's added this in, new feature that's gone into it. It's using a large language model. It's using the information that's available on the page, and it's giving me a chatbot in there. That's quite a simple thing. But the lovely thing is that's kind of taking the idea of what a chat tool might look like. I gotta say, just completely reimagine the entire site as a chat interface. You go to the website and you just left with the conversation, and it's kind of chat first rather than information first. People might find that frustrating. You might want to have both, but this is just the opportunity for you to completely reimagine. Now, what you can do as well within here is you can say, I want to connect it up with Zapier. So there's this thing called webhooks, which is where you send information through it. So it might be that when the conversation happens here, it might say, ask for an email address. When you get that email address, call a webhook, which sends that information, and that will take the email address that's been picked up. It will send as a secure webhook through to Zapier, and then you can send it off to wherever you want it to, into your CRM that you're using, into a Google Sheets, send them an email straight away with a summary of the conversation. You could do all sorts of stuff that just connecting these services together. So have a quick look in Claude 2 as the Claude co-work and see what it's up to. So that's working the way the test. We'll come back to that in a second. So nice little feature there in there. So that's slightly wrong. Do research, but anyway, no way. Our workflows, mastering skills. So skills are this new kind of thinking within AI. So agents are AI agents are autonomous agents that have capabilities of undertaking tasks and doing information for you. Now, it might be that completely autonomous and go off and do something and come back. So I don't know if you've heard of OpenClaw and stuff like that. You can give it a task to do, and it will use lots of tokens, go off and pull together a lot of services. It could do a lot of damage. It could also do a lot of good for you. It could run your business for you. It could just destroy and delete everything, because some people found that it did. So agents have great potential. Chatbots, you're asking it to do a kind of, let's say you go to a chat assistant. That's where you're not necessarily asking it to do a repeat task. You're asking it to do a new task, and you work through on that particular task. If it's a repeat task, then I suggest you're looking at projects or GPT, custom GPTs, or even agents if you're using Microsoft Copilot. So Copilot Agent Studio or something like create an agent which has a structured task where you say, okay, I've received this complaint in, walk me through the process, or I've got an auditing agent that will audit a file for me and will work through a particular file with. So if you've got a set activity that you do on a regular basis, then you need to look at kind of projects or custom GPTs or agents in there. The thing with agents is that they work fine when you give them if you don't give them tools, they will struggle. So they're just chat assistants. When you give them tools like being able to search the internet, upload, download files, access to files, commit code, create apps, that's when you really start to gain this huge potential out of the services. And the kind of concept that's come up is this idea of a skill that's a portable skill that can be used across different agents. Now, Claude, I think any plan can use a skill and create a skill within Claude. ChatGPT at the moment, I believe it's on for Max Plan or Pro Plan own people only. But the idea is you create this skill, which is a set of instructions, information that you want to use it. And I'm building a skill at the moment for creating training videos. So I'll kind of define how I want it to create each training video, and I just need to throw in a load of content, transcript, and it will go off and apply the same structure. I should be able to get out of the back of it the same consistent training video. So that's my kind of dream, is I can just capture sessions like this, put them in there, and out the back of it, there will be a prompt training video out there. There will be a using vibe coding training video out there. So that's the kind of the idea. So skill is a way of kind of binding things together. Now, to illustrate this a little bit, is I've got this thing called, I create a lot of explainers. So when I was doing teaching, For complex tasks, I would create interactive explainers to take people through that process. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to dip into it and show you in a second. But to explain the idea of how skills work, I went into Claude and I created an interactive guide on Claude. So I chatted away, I gave it some information, gave it some research that I did on the subject. It was a website that talked really well about it. And I said, create me this. I want to get across how skill MD files work, what the process works for complete novices. I want to, in the form of interactive explainer. I love building explainers with AI because it creates these interactive tools. Give me some ideas. It came back with 5 ideas. I like the idea of the IKEA approach. So it came back and it's built this IKEA kind of concept of how skills work. So let's work through it together. So what's in the box? So IKEA, before you start assembling, you need to look at every piece that's laid in there, and the skill will do that. The skill will look to see the information and tools and resources it's got available to it. So space to do it, pages, users, roles, API keys. API keys are the kind of permissions to be able to use back-end services of a lot of platforms and tools that are out there. It might even be your own data itself. You then go off, and so you can see example code that's in there. So IKEA tells you up front you'll need a Phillips screwdriver, a hammer. That's what a skill does. It says what tools am I going to need in there. So I'm going to need these things here. Don't need the browser URL. There we go. Move on to next. So within this explainer, this interactive, it's giving me feedback as to what I'm getting right or wrong. And you just basically follow the steps through on this. So if you've got a complex problem within your business, you've got a new starter coming aboard, they don't know how some kind of process works, create an explainer. Use Claude to create an asset that you can then publish. And you can do that. You can publish that as an artifact that is a shareable URL that anyone can use. As long as it's not using AI to process it, to do it, it's just a flat kind of interactive. Then anyone can access this. And you'll be able to access this through Claude. You go to the URL, it'll come with Claude, and it'll come up with this explainer here. You'll be able to interact with and learn about skills. What you can also do is generate code that you can embed in your own website. So if you've got a complex concept that you're trying to get across to customers or people, you can build an explainer, a mini interactive to put on your website. And it can be used as a lead generation tool as well. Because a lot of people, you think about marketing and stuff like that, the past has been to create these documents, ebooks and stuff like that. We don't read those things. But why not create an interactive experience to share? If you're a teacher, if you want to get across something to students. I built something for my class, my son's class. This maths challenge. So I built a whole app using Lovable that they can interact with and learn about maths. In fact, I'll show you it. Just to show off a little bit because I think it's really cool. Look at my projects for a second. Where are you? There we go. Maths. So yeah, this is a maths tool that I created. It's got group play, so you can create rewards. You can create rewards by taking photos. So you can have points that build up. You can take a photo of something, and the kid learns about maths and goes through and answers the questions. And we're not doing very well here. 3. So it's just a simple maths tool. So if you're a teacher, you're someone in education, then you could create your own educational resources using these tools and platforms. And you can do that with Google AI Studio as well. So that's the kind of challenge I've set you, is to use Claude if you've got a free account with there, or use the Claude account if you've got a paid one, or search out Google AI Studio and create your own interactive app within there. If you want Google AI Studio, is like that vibe coding, it's just like Lovable or Replit. It's slightly harder to publish things, but it's a great way of kind of creating interactive tools in there. So go off and chat with it, and you'll be able to create your tools. Should we have a quick look at Claude and see how it's working? So that's still working through that, and we'll probably not get to the end of it. But the intention of this is that it will generate me a video file from the end of the process. We'll come back to that in a second and see if we'll get that. I'm just going to pause a second. Taking through the idea of explainer. So go off and build an explainer in there. Sorry, let's take a quick break. Right. So let's just go back to the beginning then in terms of this human first, AI forward, agent ready. And I just want to kind of unpack just a little bit more detail on this. So let's look at human first. So human first is about talking to people, talking to staff, talking to customers, talking to people that are involved. So, set your values. Think about your values as a business, how much you want to adopt AI, where you want to adopt it, how much you want to be, how aggressive you want to be with your kind of approach. Look at champions within your business. Try and build together a team of people. It needs to come from the top and from the bottom as well. So you need to have a broad spread of people that are involved, but you need to look at how you can build champions in your space that are able to kind of people who are quite quick and happy to adopt AI and work with it and experiment and report back, collaborate as part of the team. Make sure you've got some time to play. Yeah, a lot of people aren't given enough time to learning AI, and I'm sure you've got a lot of years left in your career. AI is going to be a fundamental part of that process, so make sure you give yourself some time to learn and how to use it. If you're in a regulated space, you need to give your customers comfort. Then I would advise an AI advisory board. So bring in your board of directors, bring in some external people, experts in that space, who can oversee your AI adoption activities and give you feedback on it. Ask tough questions as part of that process. Look at building your AI literacy. And a lot of AI literacy comes from actually playing and working and doing and seeing how things work, because this is all very new. And there's no kind of one size fits all across all industries. It's very different in different spaces. So just have a roadmap for yourself in terms of how you're going to adopt AI and learn about it. Find the time to do it and apply that to it. Now I've got here personalize the rulebook. So give your staff a rulebook in terms of AI adoption. Working with the fact that that's going to be an agile rulebook, because new things are going to be coming along. So within there, kind of advise stuff like don't connect up data to an AI bot that's not authorized, because you might find information goes off anywhere. One of the problems with AI at the moment is kind of this guardrail idea, the idea of restricting it on information, is that it's very difficult to actually stop an AI that's got access to information sharing that information. You can put restriction there saying, whatever you do, don't say this, don't share that. But you will find that someone will find a way to do it. There's a great little tool. I'll try and remember to add that. It's one of the kind of links within the information on the AI, Air Valley AI website, which kind of explains how all that works. But just look at that rulebook, but personalize it. Tell people why. What is the risk of doing something? Why do you not want to upload all your students' names and addresses into an AI robot? What might into a chatbot? What might happen with that? Rethink your team structure as well. So start thinking about how you organize your team. What you might find is that you're not going to be working in so much in departments. There's going to be people that are going to be working across multiple projects, almost like drifters moving around, but are AI experts and kind of working towards your roadmap. And on that point, have a roadmap, have a clear plan as to where you're going. Make it an agile plan. Think 3-month chunks as you go through. Look at ideas, prioritize them. We could take this on board. This seems like a high volume, low risk activities, perfect for AI. Let's work on that. Or look at the technology. Is it ready for it yet? No, we're not quite ready. Park that, but come back to it in 3 months' time, because things might have changed so much. So make sure you've got some kind of structure as to what you're working to in terms of your adoption process. A lot of all that's going to be around getting your data ready in there as well. So being AI forward is about having your data in particular silos well organized, clear that AI can use, chunked, organized in ways in which, like I say, if you share in data you don't want sharing through a chatbot, then that chatbot will find that data and it will be shared out publicly. So organize your data appropriately. Have some good governance in place, or have policies in place. Slightly more stricter documents, but work with experts to pull that together. Look at an AI first challenge. So look at your business. So we've never been able to do this particular thing because we're just not had the capable technology available. So when you're looking at tasks to do, don't forget things that you've just never contemplated doing ever before, because you just haven't had the scalability within the workforce. AI could help you with that, so don't rule those out. I've got here red, blue, and green team. So this is my concept of if you're working in a regulated space, a challenging space, then a red team is someone who's looking at the threats of AI to your business. Is it going to, by releasing a chatbot into space, could there be a risk to your back-end systems? Is it going to give away discounts to customers, or is it going to expose data? but also look into external threats. I will do a lot of stuff in the assessment space and exams is something which is facing some huge challenges because students are either able to cheat using AI or completely embed AI as part of their response exam experience, and it's doing it for them. On that point, if you've got any learning materials, because I've not covered it here, and I will cover it in another session, we've got computer use AI bots. ChatGPT has one where you can point it at a website and ask it to do stuff on that website. One of the challenges there is if you've got learning resources, so how to operate a forklift in a warehouse safely, and your expectation is every employee should undertake that course and learn that material, but they ask an agent to go off and do that learning for them. As far as you're concerned, they've got that qualification, they've been through that process. They haven't. All they did was point it at an AI computer use agent that was able to fill in those forms and undertake that task for them. So you've got people out there doing jobs that they shouldn't do. So look for the threats, internal and external. A blue team is looking at the future, looking beyond the horizon. Blue sky, thinking about the potential. So things that might not be available right now, but 6 months down the line, this could be a huge opportunity for us as a business to adopt AI to do this particular task. And then green teams are the people that are working here and now, the current stuff. They're looking at the communication of your chatbot, maybe Microsoft Copilot, looking at the education, the AI literacy, getting teams together, collaborating, coming up with ideas and the technology and capability that's available now. I do recommend you constantly tracking trends, looking at data, and I'll share some resources where you can pick up those trends as well. Build an app, go off, build an app that's agent ready. And when I talk about agent ready, this is where I talk about having APIs available, because AI basically likes to be able to code and chat through coding interfaces and use APIs, application program interfaces, this kind of organized structured data method that sits at the back end of a lot of websites. What we're also finding in the industry is that if I'm asking it to do some research for me on a business or service, something a little bit more technical, then AI will default to the business and services that have got the best information available in relation to, I'm just realized you can't see that quite there, but there we go. So agent ready there. They will default to the ones that have the best API documentation out there. So the agents are out there looking for structured information. If your entire business is on the internet, but it's so awkward for a human to access as well as a computer to access, you're going to sit lower down in that stack of suggestions. And a lot more people are turning to AI to make suggestions using overviews within Google, etc. So you need to make sure your content and your data is AI ready, and that's including things like FAQs, have a frequently asked questions section about your site. AI doesn't really care about what you're trying to promote, so if you've just got marketing bump all over your website with no substance to it at all, you're going to score lower on their kind of answer optimization activities. Have problems, have answers on there. AI, when it searched it, when these things have been trained, they've been trained mostly on solutions to challenges, because that's what most people publish. You don't publish all your problems you had trying to do something. You publish all the solution to it. But if you have problems and answers on your site and your services, then you're more likely to be picked up by the chatbots. Good documentation on there as well. Good structured information around how to use things, and a sitemap. So that's kind of, in a way, all the standard best practice you could do for search engine activities. So search engine optimization, SEO, actually translates across to AEO, answer engine optimization, which is where we're kind of heading a little bit. So all the good practice stuff, still counts. You just need to do it. You need to make sure it's in place. Last couple of slides then. So one option, I'm looking to be teaching for an organization this particular standard. So this is the Artificial Intelligence, AI and Automation Practitioner Standard. It's level 4 that's just become available. The QR code there, if you want to scan it, that'll take you to the Skills England website. This is a great way of you embedding AI skills within your business. So you're able to do it. They're able to do a project. There'll be learning around AI and automation. It is automation as well as AI. So there's kind of the two components to it. But if you're looking for a way in which you can build that into your business structure, then I do recommend that. Finally, then, just some resources here, lots more here. And obviously, just reach out to me, chat with me. Follow me on LinkedIn. I do a lot more posting about education assessment. That's more kind of LinkedIn space. But reach out to me. And the Air Valley AI site will have more focused stuff for you. But do follow me on there. If you go to the airvalley.ai/playbook, you'll be able to find the playbook there. It'll be available by the time I come to the Tech Tuesday event. So that should be on there. So that's 37 plays in terms of your adoption of AI within your business. A couple of really good books. So Co-Intelligence, Ethan Mollick, I mentioned him earlier. That's a really good book if you just want to kind of learn about living and working with AI. Your business is a really accessible book. Got a copy up there somewhere. And then we've got this one here, Hello World, Hannah Fry, who's actually done about AI before generative AI. So the book was made before, but it's a really good way of understanding base level computing stuff. She's done a recent TV series, which I've heard bad things about because she tends to focus on the negative Black Mirror type stuff. But that is the book itself is a really good way. Other kind of areas to dip into, if you're into marketing activity, the Marketing Against the Grain is a brilliant way of looking at the guys, Kip Bodnar and I've forgotten the other guy's name, Kieran, as they talk about marketing adoption and they talk through all the tools that are available. One's a CMO for Zapier and the other one's CMO for HubSpot. So really guys who are really in the clue there. Some great guests to get on there, as well as practical demonstrations about these tools. Lenny's podcast is absolutely excellent. He has different guests on all the time, but longer form content, kind of an hour and a half podcast episodes to watch. But if you're wanting to understand this kind of the wider implications of AI adoption on certain topics, that's a really good one to dig into. The Artificial Intelligence Show is absolutely excellent one. Weekly podcast that comes out that keeps you informed on what's going on. Tends to be a little bit American. I always get a bit of politics stuff coming in there. Paul does a brilliant job of not going through politics, but I think you can tell where his political position is. But he does a really good job of navigating that because it's very crazy political times at the moment. But some excellent insights there, and it's born out of a marketing podcast, so you've got a little bit of a marketing and PR angle in there. And then the Everyday with Jordan Wilson, Everyday AI show, again, is a brilliant way of just absorbing information about AI. Jordan does really good practical demos on the features and products and services and models that come out. So if you've got some time to dedicate to this and you do a bit of commuting or something like that, my approach is to go for a walk every day. After school drop off, I get about half an hour or so podcast in, sometimes on double speed. And that's how I do my kind of absorption and learning. It's a really good way to do it. I'm going to dip back quickly into that Claude project, see if it's done something. So if you look so far, it's done all AI 15 clips, look great now. It's going to assemble the grid. And what we'll do is I'm going to pause this video and we'll come back and see just at the end, see if it's finished that particular task. Okay, I gave it a few more minutes and Claude Code is now finished, Claude Cowork. We'll have a quick look at Cowork first. So it's been through this process. I think this is a great way to finish this because it just illustrates just how the amazing potential of this. So it's gone through the process, looked through OneDrive, looked at all the video files that are in that particular folder, and it's assembled 15 clips from there, following my instructions. Frame rate, it's put together a montage, and it's created a grid of all the interviews. And if we just go to the video it's created, so if you press on play there, this is the video it's created. It's created all those clips, it's pulled it together, and made me a great montage that I can now use as part of my marketing material. To go off and do that myself, I spent ages finding those clips, putting them in together, assembling it all up, and creating a file there. But it's done that all for me, which I think, if anything, illustrates the potential of AI. This really does. So, if you want to know more, then go to airvalley.ai. Make sure you look at the playbook. Make sure you follow resources. Make sure you join. Look out for updates. So there's a WhatsApp community where you can log into that, and I'm going to do these kind of gym sessions throughout the year. We're effectively almost like personal training sessions to get together. If you're a business that's looking to adopt AI and you want someone to come on board and do a workshop, that's what I can do. I can come in and run a workshop with you and just bring your staff, help you build that roadmap towards adoption for your business. And follow me on LinkedIn. Thank you. I hope you found it all useful, and I'll speak to you soon. Cheers and bye-bye.